The views expressed on the Father to Father podcast are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors, and do not necessarily reflect Catholic Notebook, Spirit Stream Studios, any diocese, university, or affiliated organizations. This podcast is intended for adult audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Two paths, one shared aim. Navigating life's challenges, never the same. In different vocations, wisdom they share. Knowledge and the purpose everywhere. So tune in, relax, let your spirit find guidance from the heart and peace of mind. Welcome to Father, where life.
Welcome to the Father podcast. I'm Dr. Giovanni, and with me is my right hand, my main man,
Father Gregory Lambert.
Hey. We're finally here. We're finally here. Whoa, let me put some bass back on my voice.
Yeah, I was going to say it. You're really excited. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man, we're finally here. We're finally here. It's been forever. We've been talking about this forever, and
of course,
finally we've made it. We've done something with ourselves.
Finally.
For everybody listening, this is the Father to Father podcast. Basically, what Father to Father is. Father Greg is a priest. I myself am a doctor of psychology, and we decided a long time ago that we were going to get together and just, talk. And we've been having tons of conversations, and we sat there and said, you know what? I think others should listen to this because
No, for sure. Like, we've had this conversation a lot. Like, man, like we have been in on this topic or this subject for 30 to 40 minutes, and it's from two separate perspectives.
Yeah.
But they're also very intertwined. They're also very close together.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's not like we're arguing about a whole bunch of stuff because a lot of times we agree on it, but because we're coming from two separate perspectives, it's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. I didn't know that. By the way, why does this happen? Because this is a very specific niche thing. Mm-hmm. Why? And then we just go back and forth. And we
have to go left and we're like, I wish people could hear this conversation right now.
Right.
Or I wish I could have this conversation out loud with other people around, with other Catholics, so you know that this is what we think and what we believe. This is the truth.
Right. So, before we start anything else, why don't you introduce yourself? Just tell a little bit about yourself, Father Greg, and then we'll just kind of take it from there.
Sure. Love to. My name is Father Greg Lambert. I am a priest for the Archdiocese of Dubuque, Iowa, diocesan priest. I'm assigned to a parish and a high school, middle school, and elementary school in the Archdiocese of Dubuque. So I'm all over the place. I'm pretty busy all the time, but I love what I do. I love being a priest. I've been a priest for only at this point now, like it's been like a month or so, but it's been really good.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm Dr. Giovanni, and I'm a research psychologist. I'm a lecturer, and I'm also a licensed mental health counselor for the state of Iowa. So that's been that. I have my own little private practice, and so I bring that perspective. And a father of two. It's called Father for a reason, because he's a Catholic priest. He's Father Greg, and I am a father of two lovely bundles of joy. And it makes it easier that we're in the same family. So it's like...
Yeah, it makes it real convenient.
Yeah, your nieces that run around, right?
Oh, my gosh. I'm going to make a black t-shirt that says, "Come to your papa."
Come to your papa. So, you know what? We can tell you what the show is going to be about and all that stuff. We have tons of different segments and everything like that. But, like my uncle George always says, don't talk about it, just be about it. So we gonna just be about it. You ready for it?
Oh, born ready.
All right, let's go.
Common sayings mistaken as biblical. Words we've heard, but they're not typical.
In this segment, we're going to go through certain things that constantly get mistaken as biblical, because these are different sayings that people have been saying from the very beginning. And they keep thinking, hey, it's in the Bible somewhere, but is it? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Hey, the catechism said it, right? Did it? Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. We don't know. So basically what happened is the research team compiled a whole bunch of stuff, and they broke it down into origin, historical context, cultural Christian adoption, and the biblical misconception, like where it ultimately came from and where people might have mistook it. And we're going to talk about it. And we're going to start with some of my favorites. Okay.
Right.
The first one. God won't give you more than you can handle. See, that's the one that you hear constantly from people. Yeah. It's like, God won't give you more than you can handle. And that sounds great. It sounds lovely. But apparently that is a misinterpretation of 1 Corinthians 10:13, which states, temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is, he will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear.
Yeah, we definitely watered that down.
Yeah.
We definitely, we took that out of context.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, but temptation and like hardship, not the same thing.
True.
Not the same thing. And that's what they argue with the historical context as well. Is like when you take a look at it, like the wordage of everything and like the idea of suffering is very different. And so if I'm looking at a temptation for something, like, yeah, I'll be tempted. Like I look at myself and I'm like, when I first realized that I had a whole bunch of digestive issues, I was tempted to eat ice cream. But now when I look at ice cream, it's repulsive to me. So I'm not really tempted by it.
Well, what kind of cures the temptation is that you might end your life off of a block of cheese.
Yeah, that's true.
Sir?
That's true. That's true.
That might help.
It's intense though. But Father, they talk about like, hey, yo, there's a difference fundamentally between a temptation and like a hardship and like, just generalized discomfort and things of that nature.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The roles are all different. But at the same time, like, I mean, look at it this way.
Yes.
So a temptation can be something that you will habitually be dealing with. So a temptation can have something to do with, oh man, I'm lustful. Or a temptation will have something to do with, I think I'm greedy, or I'm gluttonous, or I talk a lot about people, so I gossip a lot, things of that nature. That can be a temptation that we have, and that can also have to do with our environment. Mm-hmm. However, a hardship can just kind of happen. It can be spontaneous. It can be a continuous hardship. Right. So it can be something like, I don't have a lot of money. I'm in a situation where I'm not going to be able to get a lot of money, so I got to do certain things to get more money. I got to keep on grinding, but I'm in poverty. I'm in the poverty level.
As a complete side note, the Father podcast does not endorse any illegal activity at all to get money. If you're going to get that paper, if you're going to get that bag, do it responsibly.
And legally.
I mean,
50 Cent out here.
Yeah, crypto is a thing.
Even 50 Cent turned the corner.
Yeah.
He's a mad professional dude.
He's selling water.
Yeah, he's been selling water.
He sold water before water was popular.
Mm-hmm. He's making movies now.
Which is funny.
Yeah.
He's making a Diddy movie. He's making a Diddy documentary.
Yeah, but the thing is, he made that before all the stuff really came out and got big.
Yeah.
Which lets me know he's been seeing this for a long time.
Which, that's the wildest thing, is because a lot of people are just like, hey, yo, don't have an enemy in 50 Cent, but ain't nobody really like talked about it. And then Ja Rule went through his whole thing. And for some people who don't know who Ja Rule is, the 50 Cent did his job. Because at the end of the day, he didn't like him. And he spent his entire career going like, I'm going to bury you.
That's the thing. Like 50 Cent is incredibly successful at what he does, not only within the music game, not only within acting, not only within business, but he's an individual who's very interesting because he understands the human condition to a T.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Which is why he's able to be as successful as he is. He's not just a good marketer and seller. He's a good person who understands the people around him as well as his competition.
Yeah. No, it is one of those things where like when you really focus on his actions, he really moves with two things in mind. Don't bite the hand that feeds me. Mm-hmm. And then also, if I'm going to make a move, I need to understand which players are going to be affected by it and who I'm okay with getting the blowback. Yeah. Because like every move I make is going to have some type of negative consequence, positive and negative consequence. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be something where I'm like, oh, everyone's going to be fine. It's like, no, some people are not going to be okay. And that's fine with it. So like, even if I decide, hey, I'm going to buy this company, mm-hmm. well, then that's going to negatively affect this relationship, that relationship, that relationship. And am I okay with that? And I think that aspect of it is exceptionally good.
He was the one who said, and this really kind of got me, he said, you're only as strong as the crew that you roll with.
Right.
Right. And that's a derivative on so many other different spins away, looking at like, oh, you're as strong as the weakest link, whatever you want to say it.
Right.
But he really truly believes in taking care of the people who are around him.
Right.
If they are part of his crew. Right. And leaning on them is like, hey, I need you to do this thing, to do your job and to do what you've been fulfilled and asked to do. Do that, and then we will be cool.
Right.
And he does, and he's real.
And in response, the people that follow him effectively, mm-hmm. they come back to him as like, hey, yo, my bad. Yeah. I did this, my bad. And he's like, he talked about this once on was it the Breakfast Club? He was like, hey, yeah, one of my guys, like, yeah, he comes to me, he's like, my bad. And, when he says my bad, it's just kind of like, but let me do it again. And it's like, I know what he's saying, but like he at least takes accountability for what he's doing in that moment. And so it's like that. But God won't give you more than you can handle. Ultimately, not actually word for word written anywhere.
That makes sense.
Which is the thing. Here's another one. Hate the sin, love the sinner. Hate the sin, love the sinner. And now I'm going to test your master's degree in theology right now. Do you know, and I'll give you a multiple choice type of thing. The origin of hate the sin, love the sinner. Which saint said that in their letter? Was it A, St. Jerome? Was it B, St. Augustine? Was it C, St. Gregory the First, Pope St. Gregory the First? Or was it D, St. Therese of Lisieux?
Was it B, St. Augustine?
That is correct.
That's what I thought.
You did Mundelein proud. You know your Mundelein formators sitting there going like, if you get this wrong, I promise you.
Not even that. It was probably St. John Vianney.
St. John Vianney was like,
St. Vincent de Paul was like, no, we kind of get it.
Yeah, no, we get it. No, but yeah, this phrase, hate the sin, love the sinner, is not biblical at all. It did come from St. Augustine in letter 211. Circa 424 AD, he wrote, with love for mankind and hatred of sins. Later, Mahatma Gandhi then took his words and simplified it to be, hate the sin, love the sinner.
I mean, like that's generally what's put in. Yeah, that's what's in scripture. Like that's that general idea. That's never actually said, though. You're right.
Yeah, it's never actually said. Well, because the biblical context, like when you're looking at the biblical misconception of it, it aligns with what is found in Jude 1:23. But there's nothing specifically in the Bible that talks about like, yeah, we hate the sin and not the sinner and all that stuff. And then when you look at the cultural adoption aspect of it, according to the research that was done, it's like, yeah, the evangelization arm of Christianity really took that on itself and said like, yeah, this is a great aspect to help with evangelization because at the end of the day, this is really attractive.
Well, evangelization doesn't make any sense without that.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. Because if you're trying to say that, our point is to go out and to reach out to all the individuals all over the world who don't know about Christ or who want a deeper understanding of Christ, but we're not willing to look at the individuals who are sinful,
right?
That we have an inward facing church. We have like a Catholic ghetto.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, what was it? Monsignor Fiore said, if you refuse, and this was my mentor back in the day, he was like, if you refuse to evangelize, it's as if you've decided to put mirrors in your church and talk to that rather than other people. And I was like, that's very interesting. Because like if you're talking to a mirror, you're like, yeah, I'm always winning here. There's no fear here because I know you're going to accept everything I tell you.
And I promise you this, no one's that interesting.
No
one's that interesting.
No. So here's the next one. One of my favorites that are misconceived, because I always rail against this. It's like God works in mysterious ways. God works in mysterious ways. That's not biblical.
That's not biblical.
It's not biblical.
That one I know for sure.
It's not biblical. Do you know who said it?
Who said that?
Yeah.
Like originally.
You know who said it or where it came from originally?
I think it came from scripture, but it's one of those simplified things.
No, it did not come from scripture. Actually, it came from a hymn called God Moves in Mysterious Ways in 1773 by William Cowper. It was a English poet and hymn writer. So it's an actual song. It's like God moving in mysterious ways. So the concept is a misunderstanding of Isaiah 55, 8-9, where God's ways are being discussed as being beyond the comprehension of humans. And so they're like, well, if it's beyond our comprehension, then it has to be mysterious. And it's like, what? No, it's just beyond your comprehension. It's not mysterious. Hear me out. Hear me out. This is why I always rail against this, and this is why this is one of my favorites when people are like, "Oh yeah, God moves in mysterious ways." I'm like, no, he doesn't. Because here's the thing. And I see this with when I had the kids when they were younger, right? When Claire and Sophia were younger, and I would do something like cook a meal. They wouldn't understand how to cook a meal or like what it took to cook a meal. All they saw was just raw ingredients and then a cooked meal in front of them. And they're like, wow, Dad is mysterious. Or like, you would come over and be like, wow, Uncle is magic. he just popped up out of nowhere and then like disappeared again. Like he's just magic.
That's been my guess when I need to be here. What you talking about? Right? Ain't no mysterious about this.
Right. But it's just like we don't have, because we don't have an understanding of various different things. It's like we are, there's that gap there. And because there's that gap there, it's kind of like being a kid again, where you're just sitting there going like, wow, it must be mysterious because I don't understand it. So it's mystery. Rather than like, well, yeah, I don't understand it, but that doesn't mean it's mystery. Someone understands it who has a greater comprehension than I do. Yes. And it's the same thing with like math and stuff like that. Like,
and that is not to say that it can't be, that there can't be a mystery about God, because there has to be. Because we can't comprehend everything, but we can comprehend some stuff.
Yeah, no. Like, I'm not arguing against the fact that God has mystery or like our faith has mystery, because, and this is a part of it. Like, if there's no uncertainty, what's the point of faith?
That's true.
And that's always been my thing.
That's true.
Like people always say like, oh yeah, I just wish I had everything laid out in front of me. I'm like, well, if you had everything laid out in front of you, I don't think you would actually do it.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, the whole point of a faith life is like, I don't know. Therefore, I'm placing my confide or faith, like my confidence in something that I cannot see. So like, if you don't know, then that's good.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's where faith develops. Now go forth and prosper.
Yes. But trust me, you will never exhaust the Catholic faith.
Right.
There's so much reading.
Right. So I mean, like, I look at math and I be like, oh, math is so mysterious.
It is, because it don't make sense. Like, no, because it don't make sense. We're out here talking about letters and saying that the letter has to lead to a sum. It's a letter. What sum is in the letter?
Hey, man.
It's imaginary numbers, my guy.
Hey, man.
It's theory. Like, I got theories all over the place where you can just go ahead and make one up about a number.
Yo, it's theoretical. Oh, goodness. Well, that's all the time we got for
Common sayings mistaken as biblical. Words we've heard, but they're not typical.
I know it's misunderstood. The story's wild, yes, out there, no doubt. But just lean in close, just hear me out. Hear me out. Give me time, let me speak, don't doubt. The truths in my words, the winds will shout. All
right. So the Hear Me Out segment, this is probably going to be one of my favorite segments. So the research team we have to thank the Catholic Notebook research team.
Absolutely.
They go out and they are calling people. They are getting emails. They're curating these stories and everything like that.
Work, bro.
Yes, they are. And basically what's happening in this segment, we are hearing stories from people about their lives, about situations that they find themselves in. And they're writing into us and saying like, hey, but hear me out. Was this good or was this bad? Was I justified? Was I not justified? And it's up to us and you too, as the viewer, because you're listening to this, to give them a rating. So we have a 5-star rating on this for this segment. Okay. So 5 stars is all clear. Do you give them an all clear? Green light, all clear. Meaning, yeah, you acted appropriately. Things were fine. You were good. Everything you did was within the margin of error. You did everything you could. 4 stars or a yellow light is more like, there's some minor missteps here. There's some things that you can do to adjust. There's some quick fixes that you can apply to your life or apply to the situation. A 3-star is more of an orange light saying like, hey, your heart's in the right place. But, and that's a big but too. It's this but. And then 2 is you messed up. It's time to make it right. 2 stars. You messed up, but it's time to make it right. And 1 star is you're the problem, but confession's on Thursday. And so I'll read the story. We'll talk about it. And then at the end of it, we will have to give it a star rating. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 stars? Are they in the clear, or do they have to see you for confessions on Thursday?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go. But hear me out. Is it wrong to want our wedding day to be about us? It's just a question. Is it wrong to want our wedding day to be about us? I'm Jake, 29, and my fiance is Sophia. We've been together for 4 years, engaged for 1, and are planning our wedding. It's supposed to be the happiest time of our lives, but Evan is in the way. Evan is Sophia's best friend, and that's in quotation marks. They met in college, and she swears he's, quote unquote, like a brother. But he's always around. Dinners, movies, weekend trips. At first, I ignored it. Then I notice how he looks at her, how he knows every detail about her life, and how his jokes about stepping in if I mess up doesn't sound like jokes. The real breaking point came a year ago. Early in our relationship, an older priest had us write letters to each other daily for a month, a way to center our relationship in prayer and honesty. Most of the letters were sweet, but in the middle, 13 letters were to Evan.
What?
They weren't friendly letters. 13 letters. They weren't friendly letters. They were full of regret, longing, and guilt about an affair they had been having during our 2nd year of dating. She wrote about ending it after speaking to a priest and choosing me instead. But the way she described him, the moments together, their connection was so raw and intimate, it felt like I was reading someone else's love story. I took the letters to a priest, and his advice was simple. She seems like she's closed that chapter, but you need to decide if you can live with it. If not, walk away. If yes, let it go or get counseling. Don't pretend it didn't happen.
That's great advice.
Yeah, solid. I chose to stay. I chose her. But then came the wedding planning. Evan wasn't just invited, he was the man of honor. He's standing beside her on the altar and walking her down the aisle before her dad takes over. I told Sophia I wasn't okay with this. She said I was insecure and that Evan deserves to be there. I started quietly trying to push him out, talking to her family, her friends. Nothing worked. Sophia doubled down. Then the dinner party. Evan, slightly tipsy, leans over to me and said, "You know, she only married you because I'm not ready yet."
Wow.
I punched him right there in front of everybody. Glasses shattered. People screamed. Sophia was furious, and now she won't talk to me. Evan is still in the wedding. Her family thinks I'm unstable. I'm sitting here wondering if I made a mistake by staying in the first place. But hear me out. Am I wrong for asking Sophia to remove Evan from our wedding, or have I been ignoring the obvious this whole time? So, do you want a little bit of a recap, or are you pretty good?
Yeah, let's get a recap for all the listeners.
Okay, so pretty much, Jake has his fiance. They've been together for a while. They are getting ready to get married. There's this guy, Evan, best friends with his fiance. Mm-hmm. You know, he thinks it's kind of weird, but she's like, "Yo, he's a brother." He's like, "All right, say less." Next thing he knows, they get this letter. So they have these letter writing campaigns because a priest said, "Hey, this would be good if you guys want to foster and build it on prayer. Let's do this." Apparently, she messed up and put 13 letters that were meant for Evan in the batch that she gave to Jake, and he read them and was like, "Oh," and then he you know, he didn't confront her about it or anything like that. He went and he's just like, "Yo, I'm going to go talk to a priest about this." And the priest straight up told him like, "Yo, either you're going to walk away or you're going to accept this and you're not going to bring it up, or you're going to go get counseling. One of the three. Like, don't try to make this into I'm going to be private about it." He's like, "All right, say less." And then he picked her. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to stay with her." He stayed with her. Things are fine. But then she's like, "I'm not going to have a traditional maid of honor. I'm going to turn him into the man of honor." He's going to be my right hand for the wedding. He's like, whatever. And then he's like, yeah, you're walking him down the aisle. And she's like, I don't feel comfortable with all this. She says, get over yourself. You're just being insecure. Then the wedding night happens and Evan whispers in his ear, although slightly tipsy, he says, she's only marrying you because I'm not ready. And he just punches him in the face and they fight. And so everyone's pissed at him.
Dinner. Yeah.
Yeah, the rehearsal dinner. So everyone's pissed at him and they think he's unstable. And he's just like, I messed up. Did I mess up? What am I doing wrong? Like what I asked was reasonable, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's where we are. So thoughts.
All right.
Thoughts.
Immediate thoughts. One, this is such an unfortunate situation, but it's an unfortunate situation because one, hearts are involved, and when love gets involved, things get messy.
Yeah.
It just does. It seems like though it is hurtful and darn near we want to say deceitful because of the letter situation, but she made a decision to choose her husband.
Yeah.
Or fiance. It's going to be her husband. And her fiance chose to stay with the woman that he loves.
Yeah.
There is a third party that happened in the past, and he's already making the decision that he's going to go ahead and let go of what happened in the past.
Yeah.
That's very big of him. Where he went wrong was hitting Evan. Evan?
Yeah, Evan.
Right.
Yeah.
Where he went wrong was hitting him because the reason that Evan went up to him into his ear where no one else could hear was to provoke him.
Right.
Whether or not he's tipsy or not, he did it to provoke him because he knew that he could.
Oh, yeah.
He poked the bear.
Oh, yeah.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
He knows that it bothers him.
Yeah.
But you know why he decided to poke the bear? Because it bothers Evan that he's not in the other position.
Yeah.
Point blank period. So all he has to do, and this is a big ask, and I know it. I know how it gets when jealousy and when love really gets involved. It's not easy. But all he has to do is continue on with his life and marry the woman that he loves. Now, let me just say this.
Yeah.
This also got to this elevation because she didn't respect his feelings about this whole situation and walking her down the aisle.
But you know what? He never addressed it with her.
That's also true.
He accepted it, which and I agree with you 100%. But he never goes to her and says, hey, we need to talk about this. I'm not breaking up with you. Let's just make this 100% clear. I'm not leaving. I love you. And the fact that you picked me was a considering factor that I had.
Yes.
And so the fact that you picked me, I pick you as well. But we need to talk about this, and we need to talk about your relationship with him, and we need to talk about alone time. We need to talk about this because this is no longer just simply like, oh, he's a brother to me. Because based on what I read,
that doesn't sound like a brother.
That don't sound like a brother.
I don't know what kind of family you got, but that's not what a brother is.
Yo, this ain't that type of family, man. We ain't trying to do that. So it's like if you're looking at it just from and I love the fact that the priest sat there and said, go see a counselor.
Yes.
Go see a counselor.
Yes.
Either accept it, walk away, or go see a counselor and talk about it. And he's just like, oh yeah, come back to me and talk to me. And he's like, no. I can see that this is well beyond the scope of just spirituality because you two are not talking to each other well. And there's a lot of other things going on here. Because if she was doing this the second year in,
that'd be a problem.
Okay. It's like, and I have my own thoughts on like infidelity and everything like that, of like where that sits for most people. But if we're just strictly looking at this story, okay, well, she did it. Fine. She went to confession. Fine. And she wrote these letters effectively telling Evan, it's done.
Yes.
I'm done with you.
Yes.
Which is like the best thing. Like if you're looking at outcomes, it's like the best outcome you can hope for. It's like, it's done.
Yeah.
But then my question is on the back end, like, why are you fighting so hard to put him in the wedding party?
I never heard. Maybe I'm living under a rock. I never heard of a best man.
Yeah, you are. Well, it's the man of honor.
The man of
man of
the
honor.
man of honor.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a best man. I never heard of a male.
Yeah. No, that's an in vogue thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an in vogue thing. Like that's been popping up for like a while now.
Really?
Like, yeah, like because like people are trying to break those norms and everything like that. So like, and plus a lot of people don't have standard same gender relationships. So what you tend to see is like, yo, one of my best friends is a female. So I want her to be my best man, but she's a woman. So she's my best woman. Like I'm not going to put her as the maid of honor because she doesn't know my girl. She knows me.
It's going to be awkward too.
Yeah, that will be weird. You know, you're sitting there and it's like, what's his favorite color? Your girl says light blue. It's meridian yellow. Why did you make that mistake? You go,
There's a mad specific color you can't even guess.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
So now we all got questions.
It's like, no, that's not okay. So that's become like an in vogue thing. But you know, honestly, my big question is for her of like, Sophia, why are you fighting so hard for Evan to be part of the thing?
Yes.
Like you're wanting him to act, not only be part of the day, not only just be present, but to be right next to you for photos.
And act like that's not going to bother him.
Right.
Or he's going to take it as normal. Like, oh, he's just happy to be here. There's no issues here because there was no backstory to anything at all.
Right. Or even, think about this though, because you take photos, right? Everybody takes photos.
Yeah.
Evan's going to be in a 3-piece suit like everybody else.
Yes.
She's going to be in a wedding dress.
Yes.
He's the man of honor. The man of honor is standing right next to the bridesmaid, to the wife, but the word escapes me now.
The bride?
The bride.
Yeah.
I'm saying the bridesmaid. Bride. The word escapes me. No, but the man of honor standing next to the bride, and in that moment, like, doesn't that look like a pseudo wedding picture?
It does. Like, you just got to crop one person out.
You'll have a photo with just the two of you.
Yes.
Or several photos with just the two of you.
Probably.
And for what?
And you guys will always
just
be
want
linked.
those memories?
Like, yeah, I was at your wedding. I was the best man. Or best, whatever you call that.
There's just a lot of questions there. There's just a lot of questions there. So like, it's sticky. So for him, you know, what kind of star rating are you giving?
If it wasn't for him hitting him, I would give him 4 stars.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
I have to give him 3.
His heart was in the right place.
His heart was in the right
place. Like he did everything right up until the fact that he didn't talk to her about it. Because at the moment he said like, yo, I don't want him to be in the wedding party. I'm imagining there was a conversation of like, well, why? Mm-hmm. And the fact that she came back and said like, why are you being so insecure tells me that he never said, here are the 13 letters that I read that you wrote to him about the thing that happened well in the past.
And so we're on the same plane. Like we can't say, oh, you don't understand how it happened or you don't understand my feelings. No, right. You were very, very clear in letter 14.
Yeah. You're like, yeah. Letter 10 says, I feel like this. Unless those words don't mean what they mean, I think I understand.
But I'm pretty sure they do because then on letter 7 and letter 9, you went into each word of what you mean. It was very detailed.
Right. So like, that's the thing. Like, had he have done that, I think he would have gotten like a 4-star, but
yeah,
you know, heart was in the right place. Heart was in the right place.
Also, on a closing note, if this individual, Evan, feels so deeply for this girl, Sophia, why wasn't he ready? You're at the wedding and you're still not ready?
I can tell you why. I can tell you exactly why.
Why?
He wanted to marry her. But she said no because she had fundamental feelings for Jake. Or I think his name is Jake. Yeah, Jake. Because what happened is, because this is the second year that this happened during like the second year that they were together. So it most likely was Evan and her were together in college and they developed a relationship, but they never really dated or fundamentally anything happened. But there was enough that was developed early that later on they could rekindle, and they did rekindle it. And she realized then, she's like, so you actually have been chasing after me this whole entire time. This wasn't a joke. And he's like, no. And then she had to make the decision and she said no. And so for him, he's just like, this is the woman I actually love. And she told me no, and I can't mentally handle it. And so from my perspective, what it sounds like to me, and this is just strictly from an outsider looking in as a mental health professional, from what it looks like to me, is like the compromise that they got was, let's have time together on this day because this will be the last time we'll be able to do anything together. And that from the outside looking in, that's what that kind of looks like to me.
But the wedding day?
Yeah, that's what it kind of looks like to me. Because if you think about it, he's in a very prominent position, which would require him to be in a lot of photos, which would require them to spend a lot of time together. They will always be together. And seating at the grand table, he's always going to be there.
But that's your last time. You're not going to be upset or sad about that in the slightest?
He gets a dance with her, and that's not going to be weird. No one's going to raise any questions. He's gonna dance with her, and no one's gonna raise any questions about that.
With other people around, like the best man and whatever, don't get to dance with the bride like that.
No, they do. Like
on the dance floor when everyone else is there, like the reception, right?
Yes, but you still get to dance with her.
Yeah, with everyone else around. It's not the same thing as like, oh, it's the father-daughter dance. Now it's the best man dance with the bride. What?
You don't know. Maybe they throw that in there. Who knows?
That needle gonna scratch hard. The what dance with the who?
Dude, I used to be a wedding planner, and you wouldn't believe some of the things that people put on their like dance thing. There's been a lot of different things. There's one time where I had a bride that wanted to do a first dance with her uncle. Well, her uncle had been dead for like 3 years, so they brought out the urn, and she danced around with the urn for her first dance before her husband.
That sounds like it should be sweet, but at that point it's not. Also, we're Catholic. We don't keep the urns. Bury uncle. Put him to rest.
No, they had 2 urns.
That's not fiscally responsible.
They had 2 urns. That's all it was, man. But you know,
wild.
That's it. You ready for some fatherly advice?
I think so.
When life feels tough and you're thinking twice, it's time for some fatherly advice.
All right, so this segment is called Fatherly Advice. And so for Fatherly Advice, these are individuals that send us letters. It's kind of cool that we're getting letters and emails from people just asking straight up like, hey, I don't know what to do. And
it's been very touching.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, here is some advice. It's pleasant fan mail, as I like to call it, but it's like
very holistic.
Yeah.
Because even in my daily life as a priest, when people ask for advice, it's usually within the very constrained portion of confession.
Right.
Like when I got 1 or 2 minutes,
right,
to tell them, hey, here's what you mentioned. Here's what sounds right. Here is where we need to readdress a couple things.
Right.
And here's how we move forward. Right. Or spiritual direction.
Right. No, for sure. But for me, I don't ever give advice. Like, so in counseling, we never give advice as mental health counselors or even as marriage and family life therapists. They don't
call it counsel.
Huh?
Call it counsel, right?
Yeah. No. But we don't counsel as in we are helping you move from point A to point B by holding up a mirror to yourself, but we do not give you advice. So if you were to ask a licensed practitioner, hey, what should I do in this situation? The typical response would be almost like a deflection of like, well, what is it that you're trying to do? Or what do you want to do? Or are you okay with the decision making that you've made? Because the idea is like, I don't matter, do what you want to do. So this is kind of fun for me because I get to actually be like, hey, here's my thoughts on it. So these are people who are just like, yo, I'm at my wit's end, or hey, these are situations that are going on, and I'd love to hear your advice on it. Email us your letters to catholicnumber.org/F2F, and then click on Fatherly Advice, and then just type in your letter, and it gets sent directly to us. Dear Dr. Giovanni and Father Greg, I've rewritten this letter so many times. I'm torn between 2 paths and feel both of them are right and wrong at the same time. I hope that you can help me make sense of it. Growing up, I was that girl, the one that went to Mass every weekend and asked to stop at churches on vacation and insisted on confession every other week. My family didn't get it. They called me Sister Carol, or even worse, Sister Agnes, when they were annoyed. I laughed along, but it stung. When I started driving, I stopped asking. I picked up 2 part-time jobs to cover gas, insurance, and my car payment, just so they couldn't guilt me for going to church. It worked. Things at home were quieter, and I kept my faith private. Now I'm in college, and my parents are relieved that the Sister Carol phase seems over. They even started setting me up on dates, and, well, one of them stuck. His name is Lucas. He's unapologetically faithful, kind, and steady. On Thanksgiving, when my family teased him about being, quote unquote, converted by me, he smiled and said, "No, I just love God, and I'm not shy about it." Because of expenses, we ended up living together in separate rooms, but still, he's been respectful, but it's been hard. The other night, he made me dinner, looked me in the eyes and said, "Caroline, I love you." And my heart spun. I said it back because it felt true. But later that night, I sat in adoration and cried for an hour. For so long, I felt a call to religious life. I thought I'd be a nun, and that would be my path. But now, Lucas, someone who feels like a gift, like maybe this is where God wants me to be, how do I untangle this? Do I step away from Lucas to fully discern religious life? Or is this relationship where God is actually leading me? I want to honor God with my whole heart, but I'm scared of making the wrong choice. Please, if you have any advice, I'm listening. Sincerely, Caroline. I mean, this is heartwarming, heartbreaking at the same time.
It's beautiful.
It really is.
It's truly beautiful.
It tears me up, though, that, like, she's trying to, like, build her faith, and then her parents are like, "No, it's inconvenience for us. Let's like rip away at you for it."
Yeah.
I don't know. And then that's rough. That's rough. So much so that she's like, "Yo, I have to get 2 part-time jobs in order to make sure that there is no excuse. Like, yo, you can't take this car away from me. I'm paying the car payments. I'm putting the insurance on it. I'm doing everything I need to do in order to keep it.
Mass.
Yeah, just so I can go to mass on Sunday. Just so I can go to adoration if I need to. Just so I can like take myself places like that. That is
deeply unfortunate.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Yeah.
I mean, all things that she could be doing with that freedom and with that car, with all that extra money. She could be doing a lot of other stuff that she shouldn't be doing at her age.
Yeah.
But she's choosing to be close to the Lord and to pursue his will.
And she's doing it quietly.
Yes.
And she did it quietly for years. And she's just like, you know what? No, I'm still going to do it. And she chose familial peace on the outside. Yeah. For like internal turmoil. And she's like, you know what? I will figure something out one way or the other, which it eats me up. But like the thing that she's asking advice for is like this whole discernment situation.
Yeah.
So I'll give you runway.
All right. Well, if we're going to go ahead and start with the basics, right? She's always thought that this would be something that she would be doing. That's a thought that she's had. That's a discernment that she has walked with the Lord for I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
But assuming a significant amount of time, right?
Yeah.
Since she's been going to mass and probably most likely, don't know, but most likely a daily mass goer, most likely loves the rosary, most likely has a deep, intimate prayer life, either with journaling or with adoration, with deep contemplative prayer, which has been wonderful. Hopefully that's all true, right? Now, when it comes to discernment is a walk with God, not a straight pathway. It is not like when we play, and I'm not saying this is what she's saying, but a lot of times from the outside looking in, from an onlooker, we can look at it like we're playing Monopoly. Yeah. And this is or maybe for a more rudimentary look, we're playing Candyland. Yeah. And we know exactly how we're supposed to go because, this is a path of what it looks like because I can kind of see the end and I know exactly, it doesn't really matter what's in the middle because I know what the end is. So I'm just going to go and follow this. But discernment is a day-to-day walk with God. He is the caller. You are the receiver. And you follow where the calling is. Right. Now, it does not mean that you won't have multiple great options. Any decision, any vocation that you go with that's been discerned, that's a win. There's no vocation that's better than the other. Priesthood looks pretty great on the outside, and so does marriage. But both of them have their pros and their cons. Yeah. And you can't choose one, know that you're called to it, only to regret it, to say, man, what would happen if I would have chosen something else? it's a nice idea. It's a good thought. But at the end of the day, it is a fantasy because you have been chosen and you chose to receive that call. So you've made your decision, your stake on where you are. Anything going back and forth is just a comparison to hurt your own vocation.
Right.
That's all that it is.
Yeah.
That is to say, she has a great relationship right now. That is wonderful. The Lord has called her to be truly fulfilled and joyful. Deeply, sensationally fulfilled in everything that she is. Make the decision that fulfills you the most, that keeps you close to the Lord.
Yeah.
If that is this relationship right now, then give it a thought. Now, I'm also saying that you live with this individual. Yes, you live in separate rooms, but they are around. You're coming home to them.
Yeah.
It's a simulated relationship of what this could be when you guys are married.
Right.
It's going to be really hard to think about and to look at all the other things of a religious vocation in that environment.
Yeah.
Maybe go on a retreat or two. Figure out what that looks like. See some other mother houses and see what that order is like. But right now you're living a vocation. You're living a simulated vocation of marriage. If you're feeling like this is something that you can do and this is definitely something where the Lord is calling you to, follow it. It's not a bad thing if it's not your original plan. Follow the Lord's will.
Yeah. The only thing for me, like, if you're Caroline, you're experiencing love. Like, for the longest time, you were very consistent and you were disciplined and you were faithful to God. And now God is returning back to you all the love. Like, he's showing to you, like, hey, look, this is what love kind of looks like. And this is the type of love that you've been missing for like quite a long time. And I get how it can get confusing, especially when you're like trying to make a decision. But at the end of the day, like, based on what you said, and, you know, I understand there's context missing from, you know, your past. You're not going to divulge everything, but based on what you've told us, it sounds like to me that there was only one option before. And then you started to experience love in a different form. And now you realize that there's more than one option. And because there's more than one option, that's causing some paralysis. And I think the fact that you looked at Lucas and you said, with all sincerity in your heart, I love you too. That's real.
Yep.
You're not losing anything there. I think it would be a complete mistake for you to walk away from him. I think that would be a complete mistake, because the sheer fact that you're able to not only be in a relationship with somebody, but you've maintained yourself. You haven't violated any of the teachings of the church. Like, you went as far as to say, like, no, we do, because of financial reasons. We're like, yeah, we live together, but we're in separate rooms. Like, we have to make sure that we're in separate rooms. We have to make sure that we do certain things because we're just safeguarding. I think what you're finding hard is the fact that you spent so long doing things by yourself that for the first time, you don't have to anymore. And you don't know what it's like to walk with somebody. And so this experience of walking with somebody is going to add a different dimension to your vocational experience. So lean into it. Enjoy it. And I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Like, that sucks. And to me, that genuinely breaks my heart. It genuinely breaks my heart that, like, you had to hide your faith from your family.
Yeah.
But it's cool that, like, Lucas stood up for you.
Yeah. It's a man.
Yeah, he really is. And he's like, no, I like God.
It's true.
He was like, nah, she didn't convert me. I love God. And I'm just doing this. And so I think there's a lot of that at play as well. And so that's my advice to you, is just like lean into it, enjoy it, embrace it, because you're not going to find this in a lot of places, especially not in this form expressed as you expressed it. Mm-hmm. Like right now, it seems like it's very well done. And that's rare.
Yes.
For it to be this well done. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you're sitting there crying in adoration, like, I almost think it's like tears of joy and confusion, because you're actually happy.
It's anguish.
Yeah, you're happy, but you don't want to be.
I was supposed to be happy in this way. You're supposed to make me happy in the way that I thought. Like, I thought it was going to be a nun. Right. Which is a wonderful thing to want.
Yeah. But like now someone loves you, like if someone physical is loving you.
Yes.
And so like that is something that you haven't experienced in this form. And it's great. I will also say this. Do not let your parents steal this from you. Do not let them steal this from you at all. They may have set up you two randomly on like a blind date type of thing, but don't let them take credit for this.
It's not their vocation. It's yours.
No, it's yours. Because you had to actually follow through and do everything.
Yep.
Like you and Lucas had to work together and talk and figure this. Don't let them take that away.
Exactly.
So even if you do choose ultimately to go down the path of marriage, fine. And I promise you, go talk to Lucas about it. Mm-hmm. Talk to Lucas about it and be like, hey, this is where I'm at. And the fact that you were able to set up the environment the way you set it up, I'm almost certain he'll be like, okay, well, then let's figure it out together.
Exactly.
Let's figure it out together and see what that means for us and see what that means. And that's different. And I think that that'll be really good for you too.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts?
We'll keep you in our prayers.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. Oh, damn.
May God bless you.
These are going to hurt me. They're going to hurt me, dog.
That's what compassion does.
They're so just like, hey, here's my heart. And I'm like,
if you want to know what it's like to be a priest, this is every interaction.
Hey, man. We had a good show, man. We've had a good show. This has been fun. This has been so much fun. But you know what? Let's do this. Let's wrap up with a story time.
Story time. Story time. Please.
So this story comes from my youth, right? So when I was a kid, I struggled with sarcasm a lot. But my mentor was a older Italian man, sarcastic, really funny, really engaging, that type of thing. His homilies were a riot. But you always like learn something. It was almost like an Aesop fable, but like Italian style. Like he would tell you like, oh, you know, the Trinity is like ravioli. And people would look at him like, what? So yeah, he's like, the Trinity is like ravioli. Have you ever made ravioli? Let me tell you how to make ravioli. When you take the ravioli, a lot of you will just go and say, oh, ravioli frozen, and take it and put it in the pot. And you just go and you eat it. And that's how you live your life. You don't think about it. You just take it out of the bag, put it in the pot, and eat whatever comes out, right? But in reality, that's like the first level of faith. When you really get into making ravioli, you start to truly understand the Trinity of God. There's the pasta, there's the ricotta, and there's the spinach. You cannot have one without the other. And you need to have all three working in unison. Otherwise, you do not have ravioli. If you messed up at any point, the ravioli burst and you have to start over. You need to be patient. You need to be consistent. You need to be deliberate. That is what God is. He is patient. He is deliberate. He is consistent. And it's not something that you can rush. And it's not something that you can just read out of a book. You have to experience it for yourself. And every single person sees it in a different way. And that's how you would be. And I'm like, you know what? That's
I'm just sitting here trying not to laugh because I know there's people listening to this right now thinking like, wait, so I'm going to finish my ravioli. It's not ravioli? He's like, I haven't finished my ravioli ever. Look at you. I'm on the red sauce.
It's like, no, there's no red sauce. No, the red sauce is life. You know, you put in there. So, but that's how he would be. So, like, just give you an idea of like how much he was a great orator and he was a great speaker and he was charismatic and but his wit, especially when he was teaching me stuff, it was very dry wit. And one of the things that he loved to do is come up to me and like whisper stuff to me, and he would say it at low enough that I can hear it, and I would either laugh or be completely confused, right? But it would be a joke, but sometimes it didn't land for me because I was still a kid trying to figure out life. And so one of these jokes, he came up to me, and we had a priest there, and he was struggling. He had a cast, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Giovanni, you see Padre? You see him with the cast? You know why that is?" I was like, because he hurt himself? And he's like, no. It's because he committed a sin. When priests commit sins, it manifests very strongly.
Yo!
He's like, He's like, but this is why we have confession. You know, that's why I do he's like, that's why I do Thursday confessions. I was like, oh. So in my head, as an 8-year-old kid, I'm like, wow. So every time a priest has an ailment, or every time something bad happens to a priest,
my goodness,
it's because they committed a sin. And so I started thinking, I'm like, wait a minute. But priests aren't the only people that are clergy, that are considered clergy. Deacons are clergy too. There was also a deacon at our parish at the time. He was in the process of transferring to another parish because he was like eventually moving and everything. But unbeknownst to me, he was going through chemo. I didn't know he was going through chemo. No. I did not know this.
Oh, no.
Again, I just want people to be reminded I was 8 years old. I didn't know he was going through chemo. All I saw was a man who 6 months prior had a full head of hair, who was vibrant with life, who could do things in mass, and 6 months later did not have a lot of hair.
You deplorable sinner.
And I saw him and he was struggling just to do things. And I walked up to him and very sternly, with all the confidence in the world, I was like, Deacon, let's call him Deacon Bob. Deacon Bob, I know what you did. I know exactly what you did. Monsignor has confessions on Thursdays. And you and I both know it'd be a good time for you to go and really talk about it. Now, at that point, Deacon Bob was truly dealing with some stuff because his reaction to me was like, his eyes got wide and he became even more pale than what he was. And I was like, okay. You know, because I was like, okay, cool. Because as 8 years old, I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm doing God's work. I'm convicting these men to go back to confession because they've fallen away. So I'm this reminder.
Yo. He thinks God sent a herald in the form of an 8-year-old boy. So I knew that you were out here. ...
It was like, and the funny thing is, and again, I don't know if this has anything to do with it. It may have just been a coincidence, but he did go to confession that week on Thursday. I was there because I didn't have school. Mm-hmm. It was a day off. Yeah, I see Deacon Bob going into confession. I was like, good to see you, Deacon. Your life's going to be different after today. And that's what I said. I'm like, your life is going to be very different after today. Hopefully, you stop doing what you're doing.
Bro.
And he was just like, And really, he went to confession. Literally like 2 weeks later, he got a clean bill of health. And then he was like, yeah, you're cancer free. You got a clean bill of health. Nothing's wrong with you. Everything's fine. We've never seen this before. It's no. Like, we've never seen this before. And so they're just like, he's like, oh, wow. And, things about him were a little bit different. And so he's like, oh, man. And then he came up to me like for Christmas and he's just like, hey, Gio, buddy. Hey, thanks for reminding me about confessions. He's like, and I was like, okay, cool. No problem. I'll always remind you, Deacon. Just don't do that again. And I said it like that. And we had people around me. And again, I didn't understand what was going on. But then the people around me kind of looked at him like, And so that became the moniker. So anytime I saw any priest or any religious or any person, I was like, hey, I know what you're going through. There's confessions on Thursdays. And for years, that was the thing until I turned 12. And then Monsignor caught me saying that to somebody. It was a visiting priest who was on crutches. I told him this. And Monsignor pulls me aside. He's like, why are you saying that? And I'm like, well, because he's on crutches. Clearly he sinned. And this dude doubled over and was like, And then he goes like, Father Coke, come here. Tell him what you told me. Tell him what you told me.
I do the same thing.
And I told Father Coke, and Father Coke was dying laughing. And then he goes to the visiting priest. He's like, yeah, I do got confessions on Thursdays. I hope to see you there.
You were out here changing people's lives on accident.
Yeah, dog.
Goodness gracious.
Hey,
that's wild.
That's a good episode, man.
Yeah, I think so.
Hey. You know what? Hey, that's all the time we got for today for all of us at the Father podcast. Thank you so much, Catholic Notebook, for giving us this airtime. If you want to support us and want to support them, go to catholicnotebook.org/father2father. That's catholicnotebook.org/F2F. And, drop us questions, send us letters, send us love. Wherever you're listening to this, by the way.
Shout out to India.
Hey, and Mexico.
And the Philippines.
And, Florida, Texas, California, Maine, Washington. Those are big heavy hitters right now.
We're in Maine?
Yeah, we're in Maine.
That's wild.
I know. But wherever you're listening to us right now, please drop us a like, subscribe, follow us. Also, drop us a review. Father Greg is not going to say this. He's going to say, do what's in your heart. I'm going to tell you, give us 5 stars. I can't do anything, Lord. I can't do anything, Lord. I can't log in and see 4 stars. I can't do that. So give us 5 stars. If anything, do it because you like Father Greg's sultry voice. It is what it is. Shameless plug. It is what it is.
Don't look at YouTube comments.
So for all of us here at the Father podcast, we love you. You're very special.
Go forth and bear good fruit.
And remember, confessions are on Thursdays.
Father to Father is a production of Spirit Stream Studios. All rights reserved.